Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yoshai Bashem Chakodash. The honors for my teachers, the head of apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and a Kazak Shalom to the hopeful elect. It's the brother Liash from the church, Cleveland, Ohio. Lord willing, back with another edifying lesson. This lesson was inspired by a young dude. I witnessed talking crazy about old people. And these are the scriptures that came to mind. This is Leviticus 19:32. It says, "Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man and fear thy God. I am the Lord." And Lord, all caps like that, is Yahweh. So let's get that definition. For those of you who might not know, Jake is lazy, not going to look it up. Hoary means, in this context, ancient, gray or white, or as with age. So the hoary head, that's what that's referring to. And we give reverence to the older people because of the experience that they bring. And we're going to narrow down on that point. This is Proverbs 16:31. It says, "The hoary head is a crown of glory if it be found in the way of righteousness." And that's the thing. Because as we know in the New Testament, we talk about those old bottles, just because you're old doesn't mean that you're wise. So this is the David Guzzi commentary for Proverbs 16:1. It says, "The silver head is a crown of glory if it is found in the way of righteousness." The silver head is a crown of glory. The cultural setting of its time, there was nothing unusual about the statement. Ancient cultures were sensible enough to honor and value the wisdom and experience of old age. They saw the white hair of the elderly as a crown of glory. It is often considered a blessing, but the point I was going to make was on B. Is if it is found in the way of righteousness. This is a helpful and necessary follow-up statement to the first line of this proverb, and a proverb is a wise saying or a maxim. It says, "It isn't age itself that brings a crown of glory to a person, but age in the way of righteousness." The sad truth is that age itself does not make all people better, and certainly not godlier. So this is Job 32:9. It says, "Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment." So, prime example of the commentary that we just read. This is Psalms 119:99. It says, "I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation." And, this is King David. The Psalms that he did were very heavy. 100 is the point. It says, "I understand more than the ancients because I keep thy precepts." So King David had a very, very heavy portion of the Spirit. Solomon had a very heavy portion of the Spirit. And us, as the house of David, compared to regular hoary head people in the world, we have a huge portion of the Spirit, and they have none. They are lacking. Again, we value the experience. We go to that site all the time about a travel man. But at the end of the day, it's this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that separates us from the average Joe. It's this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that gives that hoary head significance. This is Matthew 9. I'll go to 16. It says, "No man put a piece of new cloth unto an old garment. For that which is put in to fill it up, take it from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Right? You're not fixing a problem. The Lord used examples that you can actually relate to. You got pants that's so tattered, they're barely being held together. You put a patch on that, it's not going to help. You need to throw those pants away. Verse 17, it says, neither do men put new wine into old bottles. And, wine expands. So, as a matter of fact, we're going to get that in the commentary next, one thing at a time. It says, neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. So the old men stuck in their ways represent that old bottle, and this wine represents the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. It's refreshed. It's being put back into the earth. We're coming back to our heritage through the fulfillment of prophecy. But certain J came in to receive it. And those old people who cannot receive it are experiencing what's called cognitive dissonance. We'll get that next too. All right, so in biblical times, wine was stored in a few ways, primarily in wineskins, ceramic container, and underground vats or cisterns. Wineskins made from animal hides were used to transport and store wine, but they had a limited lifespan as the wine would eventually turn to vinegar due to oxidation. Okay, Wadio Bashmel shot. This is what I'm looking for. Yes, wine vessels, particularly wineskins, did burst during biblical times, especially if old wineskins were used for new wine. And here's why. Wineskins in biblical times, wine was primarily stored and transported in these skins, typically made from animal hides like goat or sheep. And the fermentation is the process that I'm referring to. New wine or unfermented grape juice undergoes fermentation, a process that produces gases like carbon dioxide and causes the wine to expand. Going down to point 3. Over time, wineskins would stretch and become brittle, losing their elasticity. If new wine was poured into these old, inflexible wineskins, the pressure from the fermentation process would cause them to burst. So when you're old and you're stuck In your ways, you are comparable to an old wineskin. And guess what? This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is compared to the wine. And the same way that the wine is going through the fermentation, Salakia, and expanding, is the same way that those who believe on Yahweh Shah, out of their bellies should flow rivers of living water. Living water is not stagnant, it's rushing, it's pouring out. It's a powerful force. Just real quick to prove that point. That wisdom is comparable to wine. This is Song of Solomon 8. And I started at 1. It says, "Oh, that thou wert as my brother, that sucked the breast of my mother." Right? And this is being poetic about wisdom. Wisdom is a nurturing force. It's a feminine force. In the Greek, wisdom, the word is Sophia. This wisdom comforts us. And when you're going about the doctrine, you go upon precept, line upon line, weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. So we're nourished with the basics of the scriptures until we can move on to heavier topics. When I should find thee without, I will kiss thee, yeah, I shall not be despised. I will lead thee and bring thee into my mother's house. Who would instruct me? Again, this is all being poetic about wisdom, seeking wisdom, and applying it ultimately. I will cause thee to drink of spice wine, of the juice of my pomegranate. That is the doctrine, the wisdom of understanding. Let's see. This is Proverbs 9:1. It says, "Wisdom hath built her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table." So, what do you do at a feast? You eat, you partake. The same thing with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Take it in. Just like the scriptures say, when you're eating the roll. This is comparable to bread, water, wine. It says, "She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table. She has sent forth her maidens. She cried upon the highest place." No, that's pretty much the point. Verse 2. We're going back to that hoary head and the wineskins. Fermentation. New wine or unfermented grape juice undergoes fermentation, a process that produces gases like CO2 and causes the wine to expand. And again, the old wineskins over time would stretch and become brittle, losing their elasticity. So if new wine was poured into these old inflexible wineskins, the pressure from the fermentation will cause them to burst. New wineskins, however, were pliable and could stretch to accommodate the expanding wine, thus preserving both the wine and the container. So, Matthew 9:17 in the NLT, it says, "And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the old skins would burst from the pressure, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine is stored in new wineskins so that both are preserved. And that's the same way that the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding stays with the elect. So going back to the initial point, Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 34 and verse 9, it says, a man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. And that's one of the things that come with old age, is wisdom and experience. Already precept upon precept, line upon line, show that experience only matters, that hoary head only matters if you've been moving in righteousness. And he, Salakia, verse 10, he that have no experience know little, but he that travel is full of prudence. And when I traveled, I saw many things, and I understood more than I can express. So going back to verse 10, he that have no experience know little, but he that traveled is full of prudence. What does that word prudence mean? The ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason, sagacity or shrewdness in the management of affairs. The root word for sagacity is sage, another word associated with wisdom, skill, and good judgment in the use of resources, caution or circumspection as to danger or risk. So what this sounds like is learning from experiences and using the lesson that you learned in order to move forward. So even if you haven't necessarily been through something, use a culmination of your past experience to make a choice. Caution or circumspection as to danger or risk, exactly. Skill and good judgment in the use of resources, these things come with time. Here at Great Millstone, we always talk about how the repetition is the father of skill. And we talk about applying the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. So it's a very deadly combination. The scriptures are also comparable to light. This is what helps us navigate and see clearly through the valley of the shadow of death. And this is also why we give double honors to the elders and the apostles, because we've entered into their labors. Going back, keeping that in mind, verse 9, a man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that have much experience will declare wisdom. Starting with Elder Apostle on down. The bishops, the different camp heads, they have many experiences in and out the truth that ultimately help them. And guess what? They're able to drop gems on younger brothers. It says, he that have no experience knoweth little, but he that have traveled is full of prudence. So if you travel, you're full of experience, the ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason, sagacity or shrewdness in the management of affairs, even dealing with your household. We get counsel from brothers. They don't give too much relationship advice because the scriptures say whatever going between you and your lady is going on. But Jake been there, done that when it come to women. Jake been there, done that when it come to spending your money irresponsibly. Skill and good judgment in the use of resources. Caution or circumspection as to danger or risk. So, again, when it comes to being wise, there's no age limit on that. But the scriptures back up why we support and respect the hoary head. That saying, respect your elders. They knew it on a base level, on a carnal level, because they can respect the life experience. And we take it a step further, being men of the Lord, being a hopeful elect, knowing that people have experience, people have tenure in this ministry. They're not only beloved and have wisdom, but they're a resource. We know the Lord is coming soon, but if we are to be here any longer, these are the people that we're cleaving unto because of the prudence and the wisdom that they show and that they have. First Timothy 5:17, let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. So, again, double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And double honors to you, the bishops and camp heads as well. Kazak Shalom to the hopeful elect. And Lord willing, this is edifying. Shalom.